I scaled my AI growth agency to over $72,000 per month. I went from 0 to 30,000 in my first 4 months. Here are 2 years of AI generation advice that will make you more money. The first piece of advice is to start with hot outreach. Now, you've heard about cold outreach, but what's hot outreach? In short, it just means you should be focusing on the low-hanging fruit, aka people you already know. Because chances are you only have friends, family members, people you went to school with, or people in your Instagram followers who own businesses or know people who own businesses. And so this gives you a huge advantage because they already trust you, probably. When you reach out to stranger, you have to build trust from zero. Prove you are not a scammer and convince them to even give you 15 minutes of their time. But when you reach out to someone who already knows you, half the work is done. Now take this with a grain of salt, as I'm not saying you have to sell to your mom or pitch your best friend, but you should be letting everyone in your circle know what you do. You let them know that you started helping local businesses get more customers using AI and automation. And you are curious to see if they know anyone who might need help with that. That is it. And so instead of asking them to buy, you're asking them to connect you with someone who might need what you offer. And before you click off thinking, but Serge, I don't know anyone who owns a business, let me stop you right there. Because you'd be very surprised when people start saying, oh yeah, actually, my uncle owns a plumbing company, or my neighbor just started a roofing business, or my friend from college runs a med spa. Your first few clients will probably come from these warm connections. And they will be the easiest sales you ever make because you are not starting from zero trust. Once you have a few clients and some results that you can leverage, then you go cold. And if you want to skip this and embrace the excuse of not knowing anyone, you can still go with cold outreach. Just know that it's going to be 10 times harder, especially as a beginner, than if you'd focus on low-hanging fruits and start with hot outreach. The second piece of advice is that volume negates luck. And I got this from a weird guy with a beard named Alex Hormozy. Apparently he has made some money online and I don't know, seems like he knows what he's talking about. But in a nutshell, it simply means that the more you do, the higher the likelihood you are going to close your next client. Nothing fancy, so if you send 10 messages, you have a certain chance of booking a call. If you send 100 messages, that chance goes up. If you send 1,000 messages, that chance goes up even more. And the more actions you take, the more opportunities you create. Once you understand that, the next question becomes how many outreaches do I need to send in order to get one client on average? And let me tell you, when you ask that, most people look at you like you are coming from Mars. They're just sending messages and hoping something hits. But you can actually calculate this. Let us say your closing rate is 20%. That means you need 5 people to show up on a calls to close one client. If your show rate is 50%, you need 10 booked calls to get 5 people to show up. If your booking rate from outreach is 1%, you need to send 1,000 messages to book 10 calls. So now you know that 1,000 messages equals 1 client on average. Once you know that number, the next question becomes how can I send more to get more clients? Because if 1,000 messages gets you 1 client, then 3,000 messages gives you 3 clients. And 3 clients at $4,000 each is $12,000. The math is simple. The problem is most people are sending maybe 10 or 20 messages per day. And at that rate, it takes you 50 to 100 days just to close 1 client. It is not that outreach does not work. It is that they just don't have enough volume going through the system. So they don't have a strategy problem, they have an infrastructure problem. And after you know that, the question becomes how do you send 1,000 messages without losing your mind? The answer is simple. You build systems. And that is the whole point of understanding advice at a deeper level. You take a phrase like volume negates luck, you ask what does that actually mean, you figure out the math, and then you ask how do I actually execute on this without burning out. Each question leads to the next answer, and each answer gets you closer to something you can actually do. Most people hear volume negates luck and think, okay, I just need to grind harder. But you just need to build an infrastructure that does the volume for you. That is the difference between advice that sounds good and advice that actually makes you money. The third piece of advice is that nobody cares about AI. And I know that sounds weird coming from a guy who runs an AI agency, but hear me out. When I was 18, I started cold calling real estate agents. And I know that contradicts the first point of doing hot outreach, but I didn't know what that was back then. Anyways, I was doing 300 calls a day using the same script over and over until sometimes midnight, and after 16 days of that, I closed my first client for 2.5K. I went from 0 to 10K per month in 43 days. And I thought I had figured it out, but after hundreds of these calls, I started noticing something weird. I would get on a phone and start explaining how we use AI to automate their follow-up, how we build chatbots that can qualify leads 24/7, and how everything integrates with their CRM. And I could hear them out checking out halfway through. They would say, yeah, that sounds interesting, let me think about it, and then they would ghost. But then I would get on other calls where I did not mention any of that, and I would just say, I help real estate agents book more leads, and those calls closed. This led me to think about who you are actually selling to. Whether that's a roofer in Texas who has been doing this for 15 years and built his business of referrals and word of mouth. a plumber in Ohio who spends 10 hours a day on job sites and barely has time to answer his phone, or a chiropractor in Florida who is good at what she does but has no idea how to get more patients in a door. These people don't give a flying F about AI chatbots, automations or CRM integrations. They woke up thinking about how they need more jobs, how they keep missing calls while they are on a job site, and how their competitor down the street is somehow always booked out while they are sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. That is what keeps them up at night, which means you are not selling AI, you are selling more customers, a full calendar, and never missing another lead. The AI is just how you deliver, but when you sell, you talk about what they get. And once you understand that, structuring the offer becomes easy. You pick a specific deliverable tied to revenue instead of leads, impressions, or clicks, something they can directly connect to money in their pocket. For local businesses, the easiest one is qualified appointments, because a roofer understands that if 10 people are sitting on his calendar ready to talk about getting their roof done, some of those are going to turn into jobs. They do not care about impressions or click-through rates, but appointments on their calendar that he can show up to and close, that makes sense to them. So instead of saying, I will run ads and generate leads, you say, I will put 8 to 15 qualified homeowners on your calendar every month who actually need their roof done and are ready to talk. Now, he's not buying marketing, he's buying jobs. And when you frame it that way, the price conversation becomes completely different. Because if he closes 2 of these appointments and the average job is $10,000, that is 20K revenue from your service. Now, whatever you charge feels small compared to what he gets back. So stop selling the tool and start selling the outcome. Nobody wakes up wanting AI. They wake up wanting more jobs, more money, and less stress. And if you give them that first, they will pay you for years. Now, although you talk about their outcomes instead of AI, most AI agency owners drop the ball on how they present the price and set up expectations. Which leads us into the 4th piece of advice: anchor everything. Now, if you don't know what price anchoring means, it's essentially when you mention a higher number before your actual price, so your actual price seems lower. So instead of just saying it is $4,000, you say, normally this runs $6,000, but I'm taking on 2 more case studies this month, so I can do it for 4K. Now, 4K feels like a deal instead of an expense. The key is you need a reason for this discount, because without one, you will just look like a fool who's desperate for money. With a reason, it feels like they are getting something special. So that's price anchoring. But there is also something I call expectation anchoring. And if you do this wrong, it may destroy your client relationships. Now, the good part is that it is pretty easy to use, yet most people do not even consider it. So what even is expectation anchoring? Well, just like you anchor your price by mentioning a higher number first, you can anchor the expectations you set for what you are actually delivering. It works just like a price anchoring, except it's the other way around. Say you promise 20 appointments and deliver 15. Your client is pissed, even though 15 is a solid number. But if you promise 10 to 12 and deliver 15, the same client thinks you are a genius. They are happy to pay you because you did not just deliver on your promise, you exceeded it. So you take whatever your system actually delivers on average and you set your promise below that. If you typically deliver 15, you promise 10 to 12. Or if you typically deliver 20, you promise 12 to 15. And the best part about this is that it compounds fast. Because when you over-deliver consistently, your clients tell their friends, they refer you business, and they stay with you for years instead of churning after 2 months. But when you over-promise and fall short even by a little, they tell people that too. Reputation compounds either way, so you may as well make it work in your favor. Now, these are just a couple of lessons I learned while building my AI agency over the last couple of years, and I just wanted to share them with you. And if you want to fast-track your AI growth agency path even more, that is exactly what I help beginners do inside of my mentorship program. We help you build your offer, install your acquisition system, and start booking appointments in the first 30 days without you having to figure it all out on your own. So if you are interested in learning more, I'll leave a link in the description below where you can apply and see if it would be a good fit to work together.